What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Joe here. Today, we are doing another album of the week. These are records chosen for us by our patrons. Basically, they can choose anything as long as it's only been rated by 8 or fewer people in our Discord community. This week, we are reviewing a record from Argentina. The band is called Almendra, which means almond. And this is their debut record. It's from 1970. I believe their second album is also just called Almendra, so they go typically by one and two. So this is one. I have no experience listening to this band, never heard of them before, so didn't know what to expect going in.
Are there any brothers in this group?
Not to my knowledge, I have no idea. I didn't do that
No.
much.
They couldn't be the Almendra. What's brother in Spanish? I don't remember. But I do know from the Discord, Joey talking about this band, that it's Luis Alberto Spinetta, who many people or some people will know from the 1972 deep dive, Artaud Pescado Rabioso 2. Also, after that band broke up, formed a new band called Invisible, who had an album in 1974, which I listened to for the current 1974 deep dive. So he's fitting in perfectly with what we're doing. And he did a bunch of 80s stuff, and he's basically the founder of National Rock, which is like the Argentinian brand of rock and roll. So a pretty big dude as far as Argentina goes. So I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I figured it would be sort of in that Pescado Rabioso, Artaud kind of vein. But I'd never heard of Almendra before, but they're a very popular album. This is a very popular album on Rate Your Music anyway.
Okay, so I'll get into it. I like the Pescado Rabioso records from 72. There's two of them, right? Yeah, I like one more than the other. I think our Todd was the better one.
You liked Artaud better. It was more folky. And then Pescado Rabioso was very like heavy psychedelic rock a lot of times.
Well, that leads me perfectly into what I'm about to say. This record has both, and I like one more than the other. But I don't think it's for the reasons, it's not the same reasons, I don't think, as the 72 records. The folk stuff here, it's good. I like it. Lovely acoustic folky track to open the record. Muchacha. I really like the vocals, especially on that track. Then you get Color Humano, which is more of a psych rocker, more distorted guitar, kind of wahing away. The problem I have with the rock tracks on this record is the production. I think it doesn't seem that well recorded or mixed. I don't think the quality of the recording holds up to the intensity and the volume of the band. And I think they just sound kind of weak, especially compared to like American rock bands of the same era. This sounds like 5, 6 years earlier than it actually is. But the acoustic stuff works perfectly fine. I think the songs sound good. The next track goes back to more acoustic instrumentation. There's some flute accompaniment. The tempos pick up a little near the end, and you get some nice group vocals at the end. And then I mean, the record kind of just oscillates back and forth between the two styles almost. Ana no Duerme is a fast one right after Figuración. It's more upbeat. There's some organ coming in. The playing in the songs are fine. I don't really have an issue with that, but it's just too much volume for it sounds like one small mic in the middle of a room or something. It doesn't sound that great. Basically, yeah, that's my main critique here. The acoustic stuff is lovely. I think his vocals are great. The guitar work and everything else is fine, but like the drum sounds are pretty bad. Just doesn't rock as much as it's trying to.
And this is like the first rock album in Argentina's history. So
Yeah.
get to the moon in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day either. Takes a little time for them to develop. A couple years, 3 years, because our Todd sounds amazing. The production on that album was great. So it took him a couple years. I like this album. I don't care that much about the production. I did note that, it's a little muddy and the production does not work for what they're doing. The things that they're playing, the instrumentation, the heaviness of it lets them down for sure. But I think the playing is real good. The first track, like you said, Muchacha, lovely folk tune, great vocals. I like Color Humano a lot. It's 9 minutes, drawn out, Latin influenced, psychedelic rock, epic, just drenched in wah. Reminds me of Hendrix and Clapton a little bit, Santana. I love the tone of the guitar. It could be louder and more in your face, but I think the sound that they get on the guitar is a great thick. It's like a thick, meaty tone that you don't hear a lot in '69, and I wish it had been recorded well because I think it would really just blow my mind a little bit. There's a lot of jazziness on this album, and it kind of vacillates between two types of jazziness, in with the folk and the rock. Um, it's not like Coltrane, but there's some jazz influence, more probably, I don't know, pre post bop, pre bop kind of jazziness. Especially on something like Ana no Duerme. Reminds me a little bit of like Court of the Crimson King, just like a tad. Just sort of twisting the tempo and just kind of a little all over the place. For me, Luis Alberto Spanetta's delivery kind of like loungy in parts, which I like. Um, Almost reminds me of like a vocal jazz singer. Definitely some Beatles and like the pre-chorus and bridges. So it kind of goes back and forth between like a rich pop song and sort of this like loungy kind of. It's got like this punchy guitar work and loungy singing, which is interesting. Estos hombres triste, more jazziness, got some cool like syncopated rhythms going on at the end of the song. It's a little all over the place, I think. The folk and the loud psychedelic rock, I mean, they can work together, but like the album I don't think is arranged in a way that makes them sort of work. Like it's too like this is soft, now it's loud, this is soft, now it's loud, instead of having a more natural kind of progression or some kind of arc in the way the songs are structured. But I like the way, I mean, I like the album. I like the closer, Laura Va. It's got some like accordion in there. He's singing like it's a show tune or, maybe a more traditional Argentinian Latin piece of music. Maybe it's kind of like a Spanish Michelle by the Beatles or a Disney tune or some show tune from, some Rodgers and Hammerstein play. So I like the singing. It's not as good as what he'd become in '72 and later with Pescado Rabioso, but I think the album is very solid. I give it 4 stars. It could be better. I mean, there's some problems, sure, but I like the way everything sounded. I like their use of jazz. I think that's probably a little ahead of its time. And the folk stuff's great. Wish it was produced better. But overall, I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I didn't mention some of the tracks on the back half of the record, but Que el Vento Borró Tus Manos is probably my favorite track on the whole record. That's I think the jazziest track on the album. More flute again. The guitar works pretty cool on there, and I like the last track, Laura Va, with the accordion. So for me, star wise, I think I'm like at a light 3.5 because I think most of the songs are pretty solid. I just think sonically it's got some problems. Uh, it seems to me in the US or maybe just the Western world generally, Now that we're all more connected to all these other cultures and music that was happening, at the same time as the records that, you know, Rolling Stone or whoever has deemed classic, there's like this like urge to like herald these records in the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And many of them should be. But I also think maybe we're over eager to christen them as such. Going through our deep dives and going back through like early 70s years and listening to a lot of stuff out of Argentina and Brazil, especially, I feel like I'm at like a 50% hit rate on these records that are supposed to be amazing. I think I have discovered some stuff that it has blown my mind and that I really love and will listen to a lot, and some stuff that is just okay. And to me, looking for like a comparable, not sound wise, but like level of greatness, maybe. This feels like, I don't know, a mountain or something like that. Like it's not the top of the mountain. Let's put it that way.
No, that would be a good topic for a full episode discussion. And yes, you are going to overrate some of these sort of lost gems because the people who find them have to like overreach as far as like, oh, this is the best thing ever. You didn't know about this, but I found it and it's amazing. And there are plenty of bands and albums that I think that applies to. And I think you could apply that to uh, Spinetta's later albums, sort of lost classics. But this just feels like a formative kind of, trying to think of a good. Uh,
It's like Blue Cheer or Frigid Pink or something like that. Like formative to metal and heavier rock music, but is it
right, it's not Black Sabbath
right? Yeah.
or Iron Maiden or something. It's a good foundation for what he would do. And I think it's a solid, good listen. I'm not saying it's like a high 4 star. I think it's pretty low 4 star, but I think it's enjoyable and I think it's a good listen. But I don't think it is a classic, a lost classic of, jazz and rock and pop. Maybe it might be a classic of Argentinian, rock national. But for 1969, we have the Beatles and the Stones and Zeppelin and Bob Dylan and the Byrds and it's all these bands that I think outclass Spinetta and Almendra, but I don't think it's a bad like it's not like some archaic like
No.
caveman discovering fire type of music. Like it just needs a little better production. I think it would be totally fine.
Yeah. All right. So let us know what you think of this record if you gave it a listen. Leave your comment in our comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, check the video description for our social media, Patreon, merch, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.